Hi everyone, how are you? I hope you're doing well. So today we're gonna talk about four books that I read for the Asian readathon, which was hosted by West Cindy in May. Yes, May. I know I'm late. I know it's the end of June now, but what can I say? I had school, I had finals. I just didn't have the time, which is also the reason why I only read four books, even though there's five prompts. I originally wanted to read one book for each of the prompts, but again, I just didn't have the time. So the only rule of this readathon was that for every book you chose, it had to be a book by an author of a different ethnicity. Like I said, I read four books, and that means that for two prompts I used one book, and it was actually the first two prompts. So the first was read a book by an Asian author, and the second was read a book featuring an Asian protagonist. Technically, I could use all of the books that I read to fit these two prompts, but I decided to specifically assign to them the Henna Wars. The Henna Wars is a YA sapphic romance that takes place in Ireland in an all-girls Catholic high school. The story revolves around Nishat, our main character, and Flavia, our main love interest. So this is a enemies to lovers romance, which normally I love. In this case, I wasn't too sure because, okay, so the reason they even start out as enemies, or rather rivals, is that they both choose to do the same project for school. They both choose to do henna. And while Nishat knows a lot about henna, it's part of her culture. Her family's been doing it for generations, and she's really good at it. She knows her stuff, basically. Flavia doesn't. And while Flavia is a good artist, she doesn't really understand the cultural significance of henna and the implications and the history, and she doesn't even bother to research it. She just sees it and steals it, basically, which obviously infuriates Nishat, and then that's how they become enemies slash rivals, and then the story goes from there. So what really bothered me was Flavia's behavior at the beginning, and like I said, I didn't think the romance would really work for me in this book because Flavia was just annoying and oblivious, and she didn't even try to understand, and I don't know, I just found that really annoying. However, things happened and their relationship progressed, and at the end did like them together, so it was fine. One thing that was really interesting about this book was that it actually started with a coming out. There's not even a spoiler, it's literally in the first chapter, I think. And I don't know, I don't think I've read many books that start with a coming out. I've read a lot of books or watched a lot of movies and TV shows that feature a coming out, because that seems to be the one thing that producers think that queer people are doing in their lives. But yeah, let's not go there. So I've consumed a lot of media with a coming out in the plot, but not necessarily in the beginning. And I found that really interesting because Nishat comes out to her parents at the beginning, and then throughout the book you can sort of see how they're coming to terms with their daughter's sexuality, because at the beginning they're not thrilled. So yeah, what I didn't really like was the and this is a minor spoiler, that this book contains the someone is outed by someone else trope, and I don't enjoy that honestly. And lately I've been reading about this a lot because I also read Felix Ever After, and that also happens in this book, well, similar thing. And I don't know, I don't enjoy queer pain, so it's not my favorite trope, but it's not I hate it, it's not, it's not my fave. Overall, I would definitely recommend this book if you're looking for a cute little romance. I wouldn't say it's chill, because I definitely had moments when I just wanted to throw the book across the room. It was making me so mad sometimes. So I wouldn't say it's a chill romance, but it is definitely cute at the end. So Yeah. So the third prompt is read a book written by an Asian author in your favorite genre. So I don't really have like one favorite genre, but I really like fantasy. And lately I've been trying out new subgenres like historical fantasy. And I found that really fun. So I decided to go for Sorcerer to the Crown for this prompt, which is a historical fantasy. I wouldn't say it's YA, I mean, I'm not really sure. So let's just call it a historical fantasy. The book is set in a Regency era England, and it follows a young sorcerer, Zacharias White, who just became a Sorcerer Royal after his master, the previous Sorcerer Royal, died. Zacharias isn't wildly popular, his colleagues mostly disrespect him, dislike him, somebody is even trying to kill him just because he's black, and you know, it's Regency era England, so they're not really content with the fact that the Sorcerer Royal, which is like a super elite position, is occupied by a black man. On top of that, Zacharias has to deal with the fact that England's magical stocks are drying up, which means that the energy that sorcerers take to do magic is scarce, and if somebody doesn't do something, they're just gonna run out of it. So Zacharias decides to do something, and he travels up to Fairyland, which is a place from where the magic like is supposed to flow into England. And on his way, he meets Prunella, which is our other main character. So Prunella is a very skilled magician. However, she's a woman, so she's not supposed to be using her powers. She's taught to suppress them and ignore them. She's also half Indian and an orphan, and so her life really has not been easy. When Zacharias and Prunella meet, they sort of instantly vibe and bond over the fact that they're both outcasts. They're also the only people of color either of them have ever met, so it's kind of a moment when they meet. And like I said, they sort of bond because they're both outcasts and they're both sort of hated at their current positions, and they decide to join forces. I'm not gonna say anything else because there's actually not much of a plot to this book, so if I said anything else, I would basically say it all. But you know what, I'm gonna leave my criticism for later and start with what I like. So the first two things that I really enjoyed in this book is first the language. The language is beautiful, and also the social critique, because I feel like even though the social critique in this book is pretty obvious, it's still, I think it's still done well. And you know, it obviously deals with racism, classism, sexism, all that jazz. And yeah, so I'm really glad that this book features all of these topics. The second, well, actually third, I already said two things, didn't I? Oops. So the third thing that I absolutely loved about this book are the main characters. I mean, okay, Prunella is such a badass. She's so freaking cool. Like, I want to be her. I honestly want to be her. I mean, okay. She's really reckless, and sometimes I was like, girl, what are you doing? Because this is not gonna end well. Just know. But she's so cool, and I don't know, she's amazing. And then we have Zacharias, and Zacharias is just, oh, I mean, I really liked him, and more than that, I admired him because, okay, he was treated like shit by most of his colleagues, and they were, you know, gossiping about him and just making his life a living hell. And he was so, he just, I mean, of course, it got to him, like deep inside he cared. I'm not saying he didn't, but he didn't give them the satisfaction of lashing out or trying to like prove that he's better than them or trying to prove himself worthy. He just did his thing. He was so collected. Like he honestly just, he was so calm. Like in the face of their insults, he was so calm, and I don't get it. I couldn't. I honestly couldn't. I would be so mad. And he was mad, like deep inside he was mad. But he was also just so good at concealing it and like doing his job, solving the problems that need to be solved, and just like I said, just doing his thing. I don't know. I just find that really admirable, honestly. Okay, now let's get to I don't want to say the worst part, like the weakest part of this book, in my opinion at least, and that is the plot. So, my biggest problem was probably the pace, because it was just like the pace was so weird. At the beginning, it was really slow, which I don't mind. So I was like, okay, so this is a slow book, cool. But then it like sped up at times, but like really unevenly, and I don't know, it also felt kind of chaotic. Like at times I just didn't really know what's going on, which might be my fault. I'm not saying it's necessarily the book's fault, but it was my reading experience, and it wasn't great because sometimes I actually had to read some paragraphs like more times to like ensure that I understand what's going on. Not because of the language barrier, but just because I felt like it's too chaotic. I just felt like, why is this happening? And I don't know. I just didn't vibe with it. I'm sorry, I just didn't. So I didn't really enjoy the story itself. But I would still recommend this book, which might seem weird because I just said I didn't enjoy the story, but since the characters were so cool, and also the system, like the magic and world building was kind of cool. So, I enjoyed that. Also, the characters were just really funny and witty, and I don't know. Like, it was fun reading about them. Just the story, like the plot, didn't work for me. So yeah, I gave this book 3.5 out of 5. Um, and if you're looking for something that is character driven, maybe a little chaotic, and it doesn't involve too much romance or barely any romance, then this is the book for you. So the next prompt is read a non-fiction book by an Asian author, and for that I chose Know My Name. This is a memoir. I believe most of you have already heard about this book. If you haven't, it's Chanel Miller's memoir, and she is the victim and the survivor of the Stanford assault case. So this book is her story, basically. It's about the assault, but mostly about the aftermath, like how she dealt with it, how her family dealt with it, her friends, also about the justice system in the USA. And yeah, I don't think I have much to say about this book because, first of all, I don't think I have fully processed it. It was a lot, like in a good sense, I guess, but it still was a lot. But I just want to say that I honestly think everybody should read this book because it's amazing. And what I also want to mention is that obviously I read this for the story, and just I read this for the story. I didn't go into it expecting like a beautiful writing or anything, but I got it. Like she's such a good writer. I was in awe like most of the time, like, and I think this story would hit me even if it was written in a very ordinary way. Like I still think it would have a big impact on me. But her writing, oh my god, it made it 10 times more powerful. She's amazing, and I can't wait to read more of her books. I would read anything she writes. I would read her like grocery lists or whatever. Like, it's just beautiful. Like, even though what happens in here, well, not all of it, but most of what happens is just ugly and heartbreaking, the writing makes the reading about it like, bearable. And I don't know, it's such a good book. I need to process. But yeah, I just honestly think everybody should read this because I don't know, I don't think I need to explain myself. I just think everybody should read this. So the last prompt is read a book by an Asian author that is not US centric. I feel like I kind of failed. So what I read for this prompt is The Sea Prayer, which focuses on the Syrian refugee crisis. And the reason I put it like to this prompt was that I thought the author is Afghan, and he is, but he's Afghan American, like he's an American citizen. So I don't know if I can say that this book is not US centric, but like the book itself is not, just the author is. So I don't know. Maybe I failed, maybe I haven't, but I can't really do anything about that now. So yeah, the lesson is research better next time. Anyway, let's get to the book. So the Sea Prayer is, well, it's a poem. It's an illustrated poem, and it's sort of like a letter from father to his son. They are both refugees, and the letter it's very short, and it's about their life in Syria and also about their journey to Europe. So I actually read this book twice. Like I said, it's very short, and I got it from the library, and I read it like on the way home, or maybe when I got home, I'm not sure. And I read it really quickly because I just read quickly. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it is what it is. And so I read it really quickly. And then I just sat there and I was like, I didn't really take any of that in. I just like went like through the text. And so I read it again. Well, actually, maybe I read it 3 times. I don't know. So what I'm trying to say is that if you're gonna read this, don't be like me and try to read it mindfully, as in slowly to be able to take everything in. Because it's one of those books that if you read it quickly, it's not really gonna give you anything. It's not gonna maybe even evoke any feelings because it is short. But if you read it slowly and if you actually like try to, I don't know, like take it in, it will give you a lot. And yeah, it was a great book, honestly. It was absolutely heart-wrenching. It was just, I don't know. I don't think I have words to describe this book. I would definitely recommend it. Like I said, it's really short. The illustrations are beautiful, by the way. And yeah, what can I say? I think especially if you're European and you only know the European side of the refugee crisis, I would definitely recommend to like read this poem and try to sort of open your mind to the other perspective. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that some of the books were interesting for you. Maybe you got some tips for your next read. I have to say that it was really weird, like sitting in front of a camera again after a while. I mean, I never really got used to it, but still, it's kind of weird. So I hope it was making at least some kind of sense. If not, well, I'm sorry. What can I say? So yeah, that's it for today. Let me know what you're reading. Let me know if you participated in the readathon, and also if you have any good recommendations for books by Asian authors, or any books, but particularly books by Asian authors. Let me know, and I'll see you next time. Bye.